Jake Gardner, you guys may have remembered this. Sorry, it wasn't Oklahoma, it was Omaha. Do you remember the protests? They were in Omaha, and a bar owner. No, I was the one who queued you up for it. Jake Gardner. Yeah, Jake Gardner was a bar owner, and it was James Scurlock was the guy who attacked him. So Gardner shot Scurlock in self-defense. And let's go really quickly here. You can just run it as B-roll to secure, or is it a clip?
It's a clip. I can turn the volume down.
Yeah. Okay, you know what? You can. Here's the security footage in case you had forgotten. Let's roll this really quickly. You can see. Gardner is mounted by a guy, right? He fires a warning shot. That guy gets up and leaves. He tries to get up, and that Scurlock who jumps in tackles him and continues punching him in the head, right? You see this here, and then he finally ends up shooting Scurlock. So this was outside of a bar. In case people don't remember this, now we can bring up the volume because it was his attorney.
To get the gun away from him.
Even if they're difficult decisions, even if they might be unpopular decisions. But it's based on what the evidence is and what the law is. And that's what I hope people understand here.
So that was the county attorney, Don Klein, right? We covered this. We thought it was kind of the end of it where he said he wouldn't file charges because this was a completely justified shooting. Again, let's keep in mind, it wasn't just a war of words and then they start shooting, right? It was a guy who got on top of him. I don't know the first guy. Bang, 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 punching him, trying to pound his head into concrete.
Yeah. And trying to take his gun.
And trying to take his gun.
Yeah.
Gardner fired a warning shot. You can clearly see not at him. That guy gets up, runs away. And so he's getting up the second time. Then another guy tackles him, starts beating his head into the concrete, and he shot him. And the county attorney said, all right, this is clearly justified self-defense. But then activists, of course, went nuts because they get the stories wrong always. And the attorney crumbled and turned the case over to a grand jury who found him guilty with 4 felonies, including manslaughter. So if he had been convicted, Gardner would face 95 years in prison, and he killed himself. So Gardner committed suicide because talk about a guy who defends himself from not 1 but 2 savage beatings and already fired a warning shot is then charged with felonies. Here's this is a question to you. If this isn't justified use of your Second Amendment rights, what does it have to be? Someone having already entered your gun safe in your home? These are 2 people who were beating his head into the concrete with no one. Here's something else that people don't think. People were around. None of them helped. Because guess what? No. If he'd have fought somebody off with his hands, I don't care if he's the UFC heavyweight champion of the world. There's another guy lining right up, and they're all going to jump on you. He would have been at least beaten into the ICU, beaten into a coma at best. At worst, would have been torn apart by a pack of wolves.
Well, again, they were trying to take his gun.
They were trying to take his gun and beating the hell out of him.
Well, and it was not just that. There were 2 guys that he fired the warning shots. I think he actually fired 2 warning shots. In that moment, he had an opportunity to shoot them and chose not to. They get up and go away. He starts to get up, back turned. A guy comes, not only is punching him, he's actually choking him with his right arm. And so he finally, at some point, is either I'm about to die or I'm going to have to shoot this guy, and shoots the guy in, I think, the clavicle right here through the neck, something like that, from right here. And what else is he supposed to do? I think maybe wait until you die and then use your gun?
What do you think there?
Is that how they do it?
I mean, you saw the flying leap that the guy took on his back. I mean, there was no question in that moment.
And that was the second guy.
Right, and that's the second guy, right?
That's the third.
That's the second beating, the third guy. There were 2 guys initially.
Oh, it's a third guy, the second beating.
Second beating. Can't keep track of all the beatings that are happening here. There's no question that when you had that moment and the announcement that there was just self-defense involved, that seemed like the right decision. It seemed that it's supported by the evidence, by the witnesses, by the camera footage, and then you see what is very clearly the bullying and ignoring of evidence that then caused the government to crumble and move forward to bring these charges. And it's a tragedy because it's essentially folks not only saying, you already have the bad actors who are saying, we don't care what the facts are. If you shot someone who's on our side, end game, this person deserves to burn. And again, not just even if
he committed the crime of defending himself while white.
Yes.
Well, that's honestly really what it comes down to.
Or using a gun because apparently everyone who has a gun is a racist, and I mean those kinds of.
Well, unless you're that asshole in Austin, Texas, and you aim it in a car at an Uber.
Pretty much.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
But that guy was justified.
Well, I mean, listen, and I know we always have to be careful because we don't have all the information. But come on, if not this, what? This is where when people say no one's coming for your guns, no one's coming for your Second Amendment rights. I would say that's coming for Second Amendment rights. If you punish somebody who was being beaten twice by 3 different people and fired warning shots, listen, you're telling people they don't have the right to defend themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. You're basically faced with a choice right now in America where if you get attacked by a group of people, you can either be killed potentially or you can defend yourself and then have your life completely ruined either by going to jail because they charge you falsely with a crime when you defended yourself, or people are just going to show up at your house forever, go to your job forever, and make sure you never earn a dime again and push you into a situation where you think suicide is the best way out.
Honestly, if people talk about suicide being a coward's way. If I'm him and I'm charged, right, with 95 years in prison at this point,
rough,
and I'm the white guy who shot a black guy, and maybe I know I'm going to the wrong prison where they're not going to be treating me very well.
Yeah.
I understand it.
Yeah.
I understand it. Your life is ruined. And not only that, and I want to talk about it more but punting it to a grand jury and how that works behind the paywall for people who are MugClub members, loudwithcrowder.com/MugClub. We can't get into all the nerdy legalese, but Bill is an actual practicing litigator. So I want to get his insight on that. But here's something else. They're trying to ruin the guy's name after he's dead.
Yeah.
Right? So keep in mind with George Floyd, with Jacob Blake, with Prude, they lied in saying, well, these were effectively saints. No one is perfect and no one is all bad. However, this guy had not committed anything even close to the multiple sexual assaults or child rape like Rosenbaum. So we need to be really clear here. They're bad apples. People are imperfect. But, when you have 4, 5, 6, 7 violent felonies on your record versus none, you'd think that'd be taken into context. The state senator, Megan Hunt.
Hell was a good word.
Megan Hunt.
Yeah.
Change that there. For Omaha's District 8 said, the indictment of Jake Gardner would never have happened without the community, the people, the mob, the pitchfork mob, who stood up for justice and demanded action from city officials. Jake Gardner is gone. Because he committed suicide. But the white supremacist attitudes that emboldened him are still with us today. Wow. Let's be clear. There is zero evidence that he's a white supremacist. They've said after reviewing private evidence, we've concluded this. Okay, just give me a taste. Like Hunter Biden with a little bit of that thimble of coke. Just give me a taste of the evidence of him being a white supremacist. If you have any, just show us anything. A swastika, burning cross, him having joined the wrong message board, anything.
Well, she's gloating over his corpse.
Right.
He's gone.
Right. Well, and by the way, last time I checked, let's assume being a white supremacist and not doing anything is not grounds for getting your butt kicked and beaten into a coma or killed.
Yeah. No,
last time I checked, you had the right to be an idiot in this country. It's your actions that we base.
If let's say the guy was a white supremacist and he walked up and he said, "You're black. I think you're dumb." I don't know how white supremacists.
They probably talk like that.
Black people are stinky. You stinky black. Maybe he did something like that.
Yeah.
You still don't have the right to beat the hell out of him. My point is, even if he's a racist son of a bitch, and I've known a couple of them. I met one at Bob Evans once. That's the first time I heard someone use the N-word. And ironically, I've told this story. I was like, oh my God, you're the person they're talking about.
You exist.
You're a unicorn. But how do I know that he wasn't that? Because there's a long history of evidence. Let me show you. This guy, so Gardner was a Marine, Iraq War veteran, who did help on the Trump campaign, but he was peaceful. He was actually supportive of the peaceful protests, the Pussy March. Remember, we forgot about that because it went from black victims to female victims to black victims again, even though some of these criminals who happen to be black have victimized women by repeatedly sexually assaulting them. We ignore them because it's an election year. We need to raise money for Black Lives Matter. He actually supported the Pussy March and the peaceful protest. We have a video of the man in question, this white supremacist fascist. Here he was.
What do you think about what's going on here today with the Women's March?
These people just want to be heard, and it's a very appropriate venue, a very appropriate weekend with all eyes on them. So, it is what it is. It's kind of crazy being in the belly of the beast here with my Trump gear and my Make America Great vest on my dog, and all the dirty looks. Everybody loves the dog until they read the vest, But, everybody just wants to be heard, and so that's what they're doing. They're not being violent. There's not even that issue with this group.
Before you say it, it's not a crime to look like Yanni, okay? So he didn't deserve to die. And if he's a white supremacist, he sucks at it. That's the
he's really bad
of a skinhead.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, I think what you said there and what we just saw, that's why he was associated with Trump. That's why he's a racist and a white supremacist.
But think about this for a second. Even though we went out there and we mocked the Pussy Hat March, right?
Of course.
I interviewed Wendy Davis as a transgender. Only got the interview because I was Stephanie a transgender, and she couldn't say no, even after my wig flew off.
That's hilarious.
That being said, I always thought, hey, this is kind of inappropriate to protest at the state capitol and show your breasts and have giant papier-mâché vaginas. I was like, I don't really think this is really appropriate when kids are here. But we never, ever, you never heard us say they don't have the right to protest, ever. You never heard us say, oh, we need to shut this down. That is very different from people committing assault, from people burning down police precincts, from people taking over swaths of towns, from people destroying cities and economies, from people shooting cops, from people committing $2 billion in damages, over 1,000 officer casualties, over 30 people dead at these protests, okay? That's very different. I am just like Gardner in this scenario, and that, I think that they're wrong. The Pussy Hat March, I thought it was silly. It was based on a lie. Remember the 77 cents on the dollar? But I don't think the ideas stand up to scrutiny, so I support their right to protest. I do not support your right to riot. And this guy was caught in the middle of it where 3 people assaulted him over the course of 2 savage beatings. He fired 2 warning shots. It was well known, including from the community attorney, saying, okay, we're not going to file charges with self-defense. It took the pitchfork mob, the pitchfork and torch mob, who, by the way, have knighted Floyd, multiple-time felon. Jacob Blake, multiple-time sexual assaulter. Rosenbaum, who just happened to be shot by Rittenhouse, multiple-time child rapist.
Why do they always pick the worst people?
Came for this guy, and now this guy ended up killing himself. So it is an absolute travesty of justice.
Watch Good Morning MugClub live every Monday through Thursday at 10:15 Eastern.